Hi everyone and welcome to Interest TV. Today we are going to talk about Sampo with Analyst Sauli Vilén.
Hey.
Hi. Welcome. For how long have you been following Sampo?
Close to 12 years now.
12 years.
Maybe 11 and a half. Yeah. So start to be in the veteran league in that, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
But kind of long time, yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
Ups and downs. Mainly ups, obviously, with Sampo, but yeah.
Yeah. A long time.
Yeah.
Sampo is a Nordic insurance business and a clear dividend machine from an investor's point of view. And it has itself stated that boring is good when it comes to insurance. How good and how boring? Could you open up the specifics when it comes to insurance business? What is the cash flow principles and what should you look at as an investor?
Well, obviously, if you look at the insurance, the property and casualty insurance, which we are talking about here, the basic idea has historically been that you make your money mainly through investment income, basically. So you actually you get so-called float for investors pay you up front, basically fees, and you invest that money and you receive some investment income, and then with the insurance margin, so to speak, with the combined ratio, you might make some money. But historically, the investment income has been the big thing. During the past, let's say, so the earnings has been in that sense kind of volatile if you look at the really big picture in this sector. But during the maybe past let's say less than a decade, but during the zero interest rate environment, actually the profit has switched from the investment income to the insurance profit, so to speak. So basically, what it basically means that when we pay our car insurance fees, basically we are getting less back from there, basically, and that's and that's actually really important to understand, since this shift has really made the company Sampo included much better. Since I mean, obviously, the insurance margin and insurance fee-based profit is so much more lucrative. It's super steady. It's easy to forecast comparing to investment income, which basically fluctuates with the overall market. So actually, the profit mix has become much better, actually. Obviously, with the Nordic insurance, in Nordic players, they have always been profitable also on the insurance side, but still the shift has been drastic, and in that sense they have become better companies.
Okay, so this is why Sampo is also known for the excellent underwriting performance.
Yeah, Sampo. Well, if we look at the Sampo's underwriting performance, the biggest thing is that Sampo's operational excellence is they are super good at that. Basically, they run their operations very on very good level. Basically, that's biggest thing. Then the second thing, really also straight related to Sampo, is their strategy. Their strategy has always been that they focus on underwriting profit, not on growth, basically. And that's actually really important, since in this business, actually, it's fairly easy to destroy value if you like run after the unprofitable growth. It's actually really easy to grow in this sector, but it's also really easy to grow unprofitably, basically,
okay,
since you have to pay the dues later, basically. If you now underwrite a poor contract, obviously you don't see it right away. You see it when the accidents actually happen, and the accidents start to be, the claims are higher than the initial principle in that sense. So obviously, but that's the second thing, the right strategic choices. And then obviously you need to remember that the Nordic insurance market is super lucrative market. The i.e.the asset manager, the hedge fund, who actually was owner at Sampo at some point, they described the Nordic as the best insurance market in the world. And
How come? What are the principles?
Well, I mean, I kind of agree with them. Since obviously in the Nordics, For one, the market is you only have a couple of large players in each country, so the market is kind of everybody has kind of big market shares, and since the market is kind of the barrier to entry is super high. Actually, we are kind of sophisticated here. Actually, for example, on digitalization perspective, if you look at for example, Central Europe, and that's why, and our players are fairly efficient, and in that sense. If you combine that with high market shares, it's actually super difficult to enter this market, and and then that's one thing. And obviously, the players here they run kind of a tight price discipline, which I mean that we haven't had a real price war or any real tough price competition in that sense for a long time. Obviously, one reason has been that everybody has been focusing on the underwriting profit, basically, since the investment profit has been weighted down for the low interest rate, and then I guess one like thing for the Nordic market is also that Nordic customers are actually for some reason very they are very lazy to search for other options basically for the insurance. They are really loyal. The retention rates are really high. They don't, for some reason, they don't bother to switch all that often. For example, comparing to UK market where the retention rates are much lower, and obviously the retention brings down profitability, since then you need to invest in marketing to get new customers in, etc. So obviously the insurance in the retention rate is
that really typical for the whole of the Nordic market or just for Sampo's customers?
For whole Nordic.
Okay.
These are like the characteristics of the whole Nordic market. Why the Nordic market is lucrative. But overall, why Sampo's underwriting performance has been so good for as long as I remember, basically. So operational excellence, right strategic choices, and excellent market to be in.
Yeah, a lot of edges for Sampo there.
Yep.
Sampo has also recently made a transformation from a wider type of conglomerate to a specific insurance company.
Yeah.
Some transactions and how does the owner structure look right now, this moment?
Yeah, Sampo used to be kind of obviously a conglomerate type of thing, but now they are a pure play insurance group. Obviously, the main value is in i.e.the.
Yep.
i.e.the. is the leading Nordic player in the P&C field. Then when you look at the other,
that's the real cash cow.
That i.e.the. is the main profit contributor there. i.e.the. is the best insurance business in the Nordics in many ways through its scale, through its operational excellence, etc. So i.e.the. is just it's the crown jewel of Sampo. Then on the P&C side, you have 50% share of Topdanmark, roughly 50% share, the second largest P&C company in Denmark. I guess we talk more about Topdanmark soon.
Yep.
And then they have in UK. They have a niche player in the P&C market, mainly in motor, the Hastings group, which they acquired, I think 2 years ago. So yeah, but that's smaller part, but that's like a opening door for the new market, since the Nordic market there is not really much to do for Sampo, since the market shares are kind of locked, you could say. Then Sampo has Mandatum Life. It's a life insurance / asset management company, also kind of a smaller part of the group value. And then finally, you have still, even the transformation is almost over, but you still have some old investments in private equity field. They have still, but they have still some left in those, and obviously they are divesting those, but it will take time since they are minority owners on theirs. And obviously the value there it's a kind of a small when you look at the whole Sampo. But P&C group, where the i.e.the. is the thing. i.e.the. is what you actually, in that sense, what you buy when you invest in Sampo.
Yeah, and Sampo recently exited Nordea as well as an investment, and I think they coexisted for about 15 years.
I think that marriage lasted like 15 years.
So it's always easy to look back, but in a retrospective view, what would you say about that investment? Was it? How would you sum it up?
I guess it was okay in the end. The IRR was 9% during the whole investment period, so it's not terrible. Obviously, the investment period, we had a historical bull market during that time, so obviously if they would have invested somewhere else, it would probably be much more profitable. But the 9% is fine, and obviously a big thanks actually goes to the Nordea's current management, who actually made a fantastic turnaround. Obviously, Sampo's CEO was also heavily involved in that, the turnaround. But through the turnaround of Nordea, which have been executed during the past couple of years, Sampo actually had a decent exit, and the poor investment became okay / maybe mediocre investment, and that's basically it. Obviously, if you look at back, like why the IRR wasn't higher, Sampo obviously expected much higher when they invested. I guess the main things were that which Sampo didn't see back then, which obviously you cannot blame them, was that the interest rate environment, nobody really expected zero interest rate, I don't think. The regulation tsunami in the banking field, it really made banks' life very, very difficult in EU. And then only thing what Sampo could have done differently is that I don't really think they understood that the Nordea was... They thought that Nordea was an excellent company when they bought it, or when they bought the stake. But in retrospect, Nordea was maybe a mediocre company, or even below that actually. That's in the past now, and the 9% is it's okay in the end, and now they are a pure insurance group. So
So let's look forward, because that's in Nordea is in the past, and we have a new strategy. Topdanmark. You mentioned that earlier. The percentage. Is it above? It's 48.
It's close to 50. It actually, if they are buying at the moment in the market, it might be close to 50. But roughly 50.
So, how do you see this percentage? Will it be 100 one day, and what time spectrum?
I think the first time I said that Sampo will acquire Topdanmark was for the media was like maybe 2015 or something, and I think in the same interview I say it's only a matter of time. So it's like 7 years ago. So it's still a matter of time. Sampo wants it. Sampo has stated now and actually previously that they want Topdanmark, but there is kind of a chicken egg problem here, since the price has always been, in Sampo's perspective, too high, and now that everybody knows that you want it, so there is like this invisible hand below the share price, like
just
since everybody
holding
it up, since everybody knows that if it drops, Sampo will buy basically. So they are kind of painted themselves in the corner in that sense. But then again, the management they took a big step forward, so to speak, during Q4 last year when they bought shares from the open market. First time in years. Before that, they haven't bought any. They just said share price is too high. Now they bought, and they started actually talk more about the synergies, etc. So my guess is that they will continue to buy shares from the market. They are not in the rush, but obviously they would want this. This is kind of last piece of the puzzle, since they have bought the minority owners of the Hastings out. Now they divested Nordea, divesting the private equity investment. The Hastings is the Topdanmark is the last piece here. Obviously they would want it, and then when obviously they can increase the rate of purchases if the share price drops enough, and they can actually make a bid. They have the capacity to make the bid, the dry powder, so to speak, if the price is right. And eventually it will come down to this, but I'm reluctant to put an exact date on it, since my last guess was kind of wrong. So, but it will happen. It's just a matter of time, obviously.
But do you think they will make other strategic steps on the way, or this is just they're on the stakeout for the price of
the problem is that there is really not much to do in the whole Nordic scene. There is nothing to do really. The market is. It's divided. There is not anything to buy. If there is something, it's really minor. It's some really small, like some tech add-on or something. It's something really small. So there is not. Topdanmark is the only one, and obviously the situation in Denmark is not optimal for Sampo, since you have i.e.the, which is kind of they have a kind of low market share there, and they don't have the scale there, and then you have the Topdanmark, so you are kind of have two players on the same market, field and kind of on different teams, so it's kind of non-optimal in every possible way. And then again, obviously you don't want to like so you obviously don't want that to continue forever. You want to
something to happen.
Yeah, and obviously the only thing is you combine those, you have great synergies, you became instantly a major player in DK in that sense. So yeah, that's just a matter of time. But
they're playing the waiting game.
Yeah, they're playing the waiting game, but obviously the big step is that they are now willing to buy shares from the market. So actually that's like, it's not anymore that they have to bid. Mm-hmm. Now, if they want, they can actually just continue, just buy and a little bit churn out the shares basically. And the higher their ownership goes, basically the less it matters what the final price of the bid would be. Yeah. Obviously, since like if there is only one other owner left, it really doesn't matter how much you pay him, since the synergies are so huge then. Yeah. But yeah.
So let's look at Hastings.
Yep.
And 100% ownership there. Yep. And Hastings hasn't really been performing the way they could or should. Yep. Should one be worried about this, or is it just a bump in the road, or how do you see this?
Well, obviously, the Hastings, one thing, it's good to put it in perspective, that Hastings is kind of a small part of the group. If you look at the whole group value, the value comes from the Nordic insurance operation. Hastings is
how big of a percentage?
Majority of the value, and obviously majority of the whole result. In our, for example, in our sum of parts, the Hastings represents less than 10% of the value.
But that's important to bring forward.
Yeah, that's and Hastings is more like an option. They're like dipping their toe in the whole new market, testing it out, and if they are happy, they might increase their bets there, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But that and obviously it's still fairly early days with Hastings. It's since, but the performance, at least during the past quarters, has been sluggish. At least, it has been tough, and it's not really Hastings related. It's actually the market related. It's actually really shows how difficult the UK market is. UK market is super difficult when you compare the Nordic market, which is all sunshine basically. Yeah. In UK, it's way different market. The competition is much more fierce, and there is really when the competition really heats up, there is not much you can basically do there. So obviously you are in a mercy of markets, so to speak, more than you are in the Nordics. Then again, it's good to remember that the Sampo has actually received major synergies, not major, but significant synergies through Hastings, actually in i.e.the, since i.e.the has actually been able to learn some tips and tricks, so to speak, from Hastings playbook, basically, and they have actually improved their own. So obviously, it's not only the Hastings result.
Yeah. So Hastings is bringing something to the table.
They definitely bringing outside their own result even. But should investors be worried? No, not really. It's not rocking the boat in any way. And I kind of like Sampo's way to progress in the UK with like the small bets first, and let's see, and if they have the confidence, they might increase bets, since obviously it kind of would be nice that they would have a growth market, since in the Nordics it's kind of
mature.
It's really mature. So obviously in the UK it's also mature, but you could consolidate the market in some sense, which would. But we'll see. It's early days and a long game.
Yeah. So let's move to a totally different topic. This is one of the branches that actually can be affected positively from higher interest rates. How does this affect Sampo? And to continue that, what about inflation?
Well, if we take those one by one, obviously they are kind of linked, but with inflation, historically, the insurance companies have been fairly decent inflation hedges. One reason is that they actually have decent pricing power, which means that I guess that means that both mine and your insurance bills will increase basically, and there's nothing we can do about it. So basically, they can flow through the claims, the higher claims price, basically the higher inflation, which affects their business, and so that's of course that's one thing. Then on the interest rate side, in the short term, you obviously have to take losses from your investment portfolio, since you mainly have bonds in portfolio, and obviously the price of bonds plummets when the interest rate goes up. But then obviously in Sampo, the effect is much more smaller than in many peers, since Sampo's duration is short, and short duration takes a lesser hit than the long duration.
Could you open up that a bit to the investors?
Well, basically, if you have a bond with a very short duration, obviously, the price of the interest rate, it doesn't matter so much for the value. And then if you have a bond of 100 years or so, its value is super sensitive to even small changes in the interest rates. So like the 100-year bond has really come crashing down basically. But Sampo is focusing on this. Sampo has has short maturity in the bond portfolio. So a small hit on the short term, but on the longer term, obviously, the investment income, which we actually started the whole interview, the investment income side has been kind of in trouble basically, since obviously the yields has been so low, and you have to have major bond portfolio. But actually now when the yields start to rise, you can actually start to earn decent yields again, which would improve the investment income, basically. So in that sense, in the long run, actually, it will boost the investment income, which helps you. But now the big and the major question is, will this affect the underwriting profits? Will this trigger, for example, more price competition in the Nordics? Since during the past decade, at least 5 years or so, every company has focused on the underwriting, since everybody has been struggling with the same low interest rate environment, and that now basically when the investment income would pick up, would that encourage somebody? Just, okay, maybe we should just a little bit, adjust our prices to attract more customers, etc. That's a possibility, since the price discipline has been so tight. So that could heat up the competition, and then again the underwriting profit would come down, and the insurance and the investment profits would go up. But actually, I would argue that would actually be a bad thing, since obviously as an owner, I would like to have as much underwriting profit as I can, since it's much more stable and predictable. It's much more valuable to me than the fluctuating investment income. But we'll see. It's again here kind of an early days, since even though the interest rates have picked up, they still kind of low still. And before we see that the rates actually stay at this level or higher level, that nobody does anything. They want confirmation before nobody does anything. But this is something to keep in mind, that yes, kind of overall, kind of for the inflation and interest rates overall, Sampo, might be kind of on the positive side. But then again, if the interest rates really go higher and stay there for a longer period of time, that might actually switch the profit mix, which actually could be bad.
Yeah, and it might actually also increase the competition on the market.
Yeah, and that would change the mix. Mix. But we'll see about that. As I said, early days regarding the interest rate. Let's see where they land eventually.
So what about the valuation of Sampo?
Yeah, well, first of all, how you should look at it, since Sampo still has different parts there. You have the crown jewel, if, which is at least in my opinion the best insurance company in the whole Nordics. Probably, by the way, on the same, probably also close to the same podium place in the European level. But anyway, let's stay in the Nordics. Then you have Topdanmark, excellent asset also. Then Hastings, in the UK, not so lucrative market, smaller player. The multiple level which you can accept for Hastings is much lower than for even Topdanmark. Then in Mandatum Life, the life insurance, life business, it's also clearly lower multiple business. And then you have the investments still there, the private equity investments from companies on balance sheet, which they are divesting. So you should take those into account. So since you have so many different parts, you should look that through sum of parts, obviously. So my sum of part valuation is 44 euros and company is trading with a slight discount to it. It's kind of hard to justify the discount to it since, we know that the value, for example, the PE investments, the value is coming out. They are divesting them and distributing them to shareholders as they have been doing with the Nordea cash already. So in that sense, I don't really justify the discount there, and I see that it should be trading close to in par with sum of parts. Then again, as you said in the beginning, Sampo is a dividend machine. Yes, they are. Dividend is a big part of the story. They want to distribute majority of their profits through dividends. They have actually, and also buybacks. They are currently having a new buyback program. They just distributed major 2 billion euro dividend actually for shareholders and obviously the dividend yield is good at these levels, and obviously there might be still coming in some excess dividends when they divest the PE investment if they cannot find a way to buy Denmark. So super stable, predictable dividend income, and combining with the slight discount for our view of the sum of parts. So that's still offers lucrative return comparing to risks what you're carrying with Sampo, especially in this environment where Sampo is actually one of the few who could benefit. At least they are not suffering. At least that's something. It's fair to say. But so we are positive on Sampo, definitely.
Thank you, Sauli Vilén, for all these comments, and a written report about all this you can find in the link below.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.